called, no matter, no sooner button up your speeches. Out into this world, tiny little thing before its time in a god for... What? Girl? Yes, tiny little girl, out into this, before her time, gods of her sacred hole called, no matter, parents unknown, unheard of, he having vanished, thin air, no sooner button up her speeches, she similarly, 8 months later, almost in a tick, so no love, spare that, no love such as normally vented on the speechless infant in the home, no, nor indeed for that matter of any kind, no love of any kind, at any subsequent stage, so typical affair, nothing of any unknown till coming up to 61. What? 70. Good God, coming up to 70, wandering the field, looking aimlessly for cowslips to make a ball, a few steps and stop, stare into space, then on, a few more, stop and stare again, so on, drifting around, when suddenly, gradually, all went out, all that early April morning light, and she found herself in a... What? Who? No! She! Found herself in the dark, and if not exactly insentient, for she could still hear the buzzing so-called in the ears, and a ray of light came and went, such as the moon might cast, drifting in and out of cloud, but so dulled, feeling so dulled, she did not know what position she was in. Imagine what position she was in, whether standing or sitting, but the brain! What? Kneeling? Yes, whether standing or sitting or kneeling, but the brain! What? Lying? Yes, whether standing or sitting or kneeling or lying, but the brain still in a way, for her first thought was, oh, long after, sudden flash, brought out that she had been to believe with the other waves and merciful, ha! God! First thought was, oh, long after, sudden flash, she was being punished for her sins, a number of which then, for the proof were needed, flashed through her mind, one after another, then dismissed as foolish, oh, long after, this thought dismissed, as she suddenly gradually realized, she was not suffering, imagine, not suffering, indeed, could not remember offhand when she had suffered less, unless, of course, she was meant to be suffering, thought to be suffering, just as the odd time in her life, when clearly intended to be having pleasure, she was in fact having none, not the slightest, in which case, of course, that notion of punishment for some sin or other, or for the lot, or no particular reason, for its own sake, things she understood perfectly, that notion of punishment, which had first occurred to her, but if she had been to believe with the other waifs and a merciful, God, first occurred to her, then dismissed as foolish, was perhaps not so foolish after all. So on, all that, vain reasonings, till another thought, oh, long after, said Flash, very foolish really, but what? The buzzing? Yes, all the time buzzing, so-called, in the ears, though actually, of course, not in the ears at all, in the skull, dull roar in the skull, and all the time this rare beam, like moonbeam, but probably not, certainly not, always the same spot, now bright, now shrouded, but always the same spot, as no moon could, no moon, just all part of the wish to torment, though actually in point of fact, not in the least, not a twinge, so far, so far. This other thought then, oh, long after, sent a flash, very foolish really, but so like her, in a way that she might do well to groan on and off, writhe she could not, as if in actual agony, but could not bring herself, some flaw in her makeup, incapable of deceit, or the machine, more likely the machine, so disconnected, never got the message, or powerless to respond, like numbed, couldn't scream, couldn't help, couldn't make any sound, not sound any sound, no sound of any kind, no screaming for help, for example, should she so feel inclined, scream, ah! Then listen. Scream again. Ah! Then listen again. No, spare that, all silent as the grave, no part. What? The buzzing? Yes, all silent before the buzzing so-called, no part of her moving that she could feel, just the eyelids presumably, on and off, shut off the light, reflex they call it, no feeling of any kind, but the lids, even best of times, who feels them, opening, shutting, all that moisture, but the brain still sufficiently, oh very much so, at this stage, in control, under control, to question even this, for on that early April morning, so it reasoned, that April morning, she fixing with her eye, distant bell as she hastened towards it, fixing it with her eye, lest it elude her, had not all gone out, all that light of itself, without any on her part, so on, reasoned, vain questionings, and all did still, sweet silent as the grave, when suddenly, gradually, she realized, what? The buzzing? Yes, all dead still before the buzzing, when she suddenly realized, words, what? Who? No! She! Realized, words were coming, imagine, words were coming, a voice she did not recognize at first, so long since it had sounded, then finally had to admit could be none other than her own. Certain vowel sounds she had never heard elsewhere, so that people would stare. The rare occasions, once or twice a year, always when for some strange reason, stare at her uncomprehendingly. And now the stream, steady stream, she who had never, on the contrary, practically speechless all her days, how she survived. Even shopping, out shopping, busy shopping centre, supermarket, just handing the list with the bag, all bag, shopping bag, and stand there waiting any length of time, middle of the throng, motionless, staring into space, mouth half open as usual, till was back in her hand, bag back in her hand, then pay and go, not so much as goodbye, how she survived. And now the stream, not catching the half of it, not the quarter, no idea what she was saying, imagine, no idea what she was saying, till she began trying to delude herself. It would not heard at all, not her voice at all, no doubt would have, vital she should, was on the point, after long efforts, when suddenly she felt, gradually she felt her lips moving, imagine her lips moving, as of course till then she had not, and not alone the lips, the cheeks, the jaws, the whole face, all those what? The tongue? Yes, the tongue and the mouth, all those contortions without which no speech possible, and yet in the ordinary way not felt at all, so intent as one on one what to saying, the whole being hanging on its words, so that not only had she to give up, and made hers alone, her voice alone, but this other awful thought, long after, sudden flash, even more awful if possible, that feeling was coming back, imagine, feeling coming back, starting at the top, then working down, the whole machine, but no, spare that, the mouth alone, so far, so far, then thinking, long after, sudden flash, it can't go on, all this, all that, steady stream, straining to here, make something of it, and her own thoughts, make something of them, all that, what? The buzzing? Yes, all the time the buzzing, so-called, all that together, imagine, whole body like gone, just mouth, lips, cheeks, jaws, never what? Tongue? Yes, lips, cheeks, jaws, tongue, never still a second, mouth on fire, stream of words in her ear, practically in her ear, not catching half, not the quarter, no idea what she's saying, imagine, no idea what she's saying, you can't stop, no stopping it, she who but a moment before, but a moment, could not make a sound, no sound of any kind, no movement of any kind, now can't stop, imagine, can't stop the stream, and the whole brain begging, something begging in the brain, begging the mouth to stop, pause for a moment, if only for a moment, and no response, as if it hadn't heard, or couldn't pause a second, like maddened, all that together, straining to hear, piece it together, and the brain, raving away on its own, trying to make sense of it, or make it stop. Or in the past, dragging up the past, flashes from all over, walks mostly, walking all her days, day after day, a few steps and stop, staring to space, then on, a few more, stop and stare again, so on, drifting around, day after day. Or the time she cried, the one time she could remember since she was a baby, must have cried as a baby, perhaps not essential to life, just the birth cry to get her going, breathing, then no more till this, old hag already, sitting staring at her hand, where was it? Croker's Acres, one evening on the way home, a little mound in Croker's Acres, dusk, sitting staring at her hand, there in her lap, palm upward, suddenly saw it wet, the palm, tears presumably, hers presumably, no one else for miles, no sound, just tears, sat and watched them dry, all over in a second, or grabbing at the straw, the brain, flickering away on its own, quick grabbing on, nothing there, on to the next, bad as the voice, worse, as little sense, all that together, can't go, what? The buzzing? Yes, all the time, the buzzing, dull roar like falls, and the beam, flickering on and off, starting to move around, like moonbeam but not, all part of the same, keep an eye on that too, corner of the eye, all that together, can't go on, caught his love, she'll be perched, back in the fields, morning sun, April, sink face down in the grass, nothing but the larks, so on, grabbing at straw, straining to hear the odd word, make some sense of it, whole body like gone, just mouth, like maddened, and can't stop, no stopping it, something she had to, what? Who? No! She! Something she had to. What? The buzzing? Yes, all the time buzzing, dull roar in the skull, and the beam ferreting around, painless, so far, so far, and thinking, long after, some flash, perhaps something she had to tell. Could that be it? Something she had to tell, tiny little thing before its time, God forsake her whole, no love, spare that, speechless all her days, practically speechless, how she survived, that time in court, what had she to say for herself, guilty or not guilty, stand up woman, speak up woman, stood there staring into space, mouth half open as usual, waiting to be led away, glad of the hand on her arm, now this, something she had to tell, could that be it? Something that would tell how it was, how she, what? Had been, yes, something that would tell how it had been, how she lived on and on to be 60, not guilty, 70, good God, on and on to be 70, something she didn't know herself, wouldn't know if she heard, then forgiven, God his love, tender mercies, knew every morning, back in the field, April morning, facing the grass, nothing but the larks, pick it up there, get on with it from there, another few, what? Not that? Nothing to do with that? Nothing she could tell? All right, nothing she could tell, try something else, think of something else, long after, some flash, not that either, all right, thinks of something else, so on, hit on it in the end, think everything, either keep on long enough, then forgiven, back in the What? Not that either. Nothing to do with that either. Nothing she could think. All right, nothing she could tell, nothing she could think, nothing she... What? Who? No! She! Tiny little thing, out before its time, godforsaken hole, no love, spare that, speechless all her days, practically speechless, even to herself, never out loud, but not completely, sometimes sudden urge, once or twice a year, always wonder some strange reason, the long evenings, hours of darkness, sudden urge to tell, then rush out, stop before she saw, nearest lavatory, start pouring it out, steady stream, mad stuff, half the vowels wrong, no one could follow, till she saw the stare she was getting, then die of shame, crawl back in, once or twice a year, always wonder some strange reason, long hours of darkness, now this, quicker and quicker, the words, the brain flickering away like mad, quick grab a nod, nothing there, on somewhere else, try somewhere else, all the time something begging it all to stop, unanswered, prayer unanswered, or unheard, too faint, so on, keep on, trying not knowing what she was trying, what to try, whole body like gone, just mouth like maddened, so on, keep, what? The buzzing? Yes, all the time the buzzing, dull roar like falls in the skull, in the beam poking around, painless, so far, ha! So far, all that, keep on, not knowing what she was, what? Who? No! She! What she was trying, what to try, no matter, keep on, hit on it in the end, then back, God is love, tender mercies, new every morning, back in the field, April morning, facing the grass, nothing but the larks, pick it up, that no one would tell how she had been, how she had lived, live on, guilty and on, to be 60, someday she, what, 70? Good God, on and on to be 70, someday she didn't know herself, or know she heard, and forgiven, God is love, tender mercies, new every morning.